On January 28, 2011, Arthur and Donna Badger were driving on US 278 in Allendale County when a UPS truck crossed the center lane and struck them. Donna was killed instantly. Arthur and Donna were married and had 6 children. Alex negotiated a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against UPS in late 2012. Instead of passing the settlement to Arthur, Alex Murdaugh and Russell Laffitte worked together behind the grieving father and his 6 heartbroken children's backs to steal more than $1.3 million. Through trickery and deceit, Alex and Russell set up a fake structured settlement for Arthur while they slowly drained his money. Some of it was used to pay back money they'd stolen from the Plyler sisters from episode 1. Other stolen funds went to Alex's credit cards, a car dealership, and to family members. So how did they manage this? Find out here in episode 3 of Murdaugh Money, The Victims. When a person with a spouse and children dies intestate, half of their estate goes to their spouse, and the other half is divided amongst their children. This is state law. The law also requires a personal representative be assigned to take control of the estate. Donna's husband, Arthur, was her legal representative. He had served as such and fulfilled every duty necessary from February 9, 2011 in the Allendale County Probate Court. In fact, the lawsuit against UPS was titled Arthur Badger as personal representative of the estate of Donna Badger versus United Parcel Services Incorporated and Matthew Fields. As the case drew close to settlement, however, probably as Alex realized this case was going to have a huge payout, Alex and Russell Laffitte, who both had borrowed large amounts from the Plyler conservatorship that they were not in a position to pay back before Hannah turned of age to collect, devised a plan so unthinkably sinister. I was going to say, it's hard to imagine a father carrying out, but I guess when you're the type of father who murders your own son, anything is possible. So in order to get their hands on this payout, they must first remove Arthur as personal representative. A mediation on the civil suit against UPS was scheduled for September 6, 2012. So on August 30th, 2012, Alex tricks Arthur into signing away his rights as his wife's personal representative. Russell Laffitte then uses his title, position, and affiliation with Palmetto State Bank to file an application with the Allendale County Probate Court to become Donna's new personal representative. It's approved by the court, and Russell's contact information and address at the bank are given. This is to exclude Arthur and his children from being notified of any information about the case, including notices of hearings, settlements, or any information. Nor will their approval be sought for any decisions that need to be made. Arthur is completely left in the dark about this change of representative. On October 30th, 2012, in the role he's just stolen from Arthur, as personal representative, Russell files a verified petition in the Allendale County Court of Common Pleas to approve the settlement of the survival and wrongful death claims, and he swears under oath that Arthur Badger has specifically renounced his right as a statutory beneficiary. In other words, he swears under oath that Arthur, a widower with 6 kids to raise on his own, doesn't want the money from his wife's wrongful death claim that he is suing for. Naturally, Arthur and his kids have not been notified of this petition. Why didn't the court question this? What judge in their right mind would approve this, no questions asked? This certainly cannot be a normal court petition that they see all the time. Arthur should have been called to appear before the court to publicly renounce his rights to make sure he understood what it entailed. It's especially shocking since court documents prove that Arthur is behind this suit and is even listed in documents Alex presented to the court, such as the proposal for distribution filed on December 20th, 2012, showing he is the statutory beneficiary entitled to 50% of his wife's estate. Also, the letter of transmission of the final accounting to the probate court, where he is listed as one of 7 heirs. Even further, on a disbursement sheet dated January 27, 2014, prepared by PMPED, Alex's law firm, long after the deceitful document was signed, Arthur is listed as being entitled to receive 1/2 of an undisbursed amount of $18,018.50, proving that the law firm and Alex knew him to be Donna's beneficiary, before, during, and after. With the petition approved by the court and Arthur effectively out of the way, the settlement money is received on November 19, 2012. Only $500 of the entire settlement is applied to Donna Badger's estate. This was done for a tricky purpose as well. The remainder is allocated to the wrongful death settlement. Why? Because the estate requires supervision of the probate court, while the wrongful death settlement does not. A wrongful death settlement is meant to compensate people for their grief, sorrow, and mourning associated with their loss. Such settlements are immediately distributed to the deceased one's beneficiaries, since there's no supervision required that could hold up the process. But with the false statement of Arthur relinquishing his inheritance, it goes straight into Alex and Russell's filthy hands. It wasn't enough to steal Donna's funds. On October 30th, 2012, Alex settles Arthur's injury claim. Since they couldn't access it as they had with Donna, Russell serving as representative, they had to find a new way to carry this out. Alex presented a 2-page document for Arthur to sign. The first page of the actual document was a disbursement sheet showing the amount of his settlement, and the second page was only the signature line. Alex slips in a different first page, a fake page that shows a payment to fund structure per client request with payment to be made to defendant bank. With this signature, Arthur had now signed away his own settlement as well. Arthur's money was then drawn on the PMPED trust account to be held, managed, and administered by defendant bank. Naturally, Alex and Russell wouldn't have access to that, so a new scheme was devised. Alex informed PMPED that this check had been lost, and so the check was voided and would need to be rewritten. Alex then sends Lafitte instructions in an email to make a request as to how the money should be distributed. He instructed him to request that the money be divided into 4 different checks in different amounts. Lafitte did as he was told and sent an email with that request. Alex then forwards it to an accounting employee at PMPED, and the check is now reissued in 4 separate checks, all now payable to Palmetto State Bank, where the funds could go directly to Alex and Lafitte. And they immediately began making transfers and money orders. Here is where the money went. He takes out a money order for a business associate on February 11th for over $388,000. On the same day, he makes out a money order for a family member in the amount of $75,000. The next day, he starts paying back the loans to the Plyler girls with over $151,000 on the 12th, followed by over $33,000 on the 13th. He takes a little break until October, where he starts putting money in earnest to Hannah's conservatorship. He puts 2 money orders that month in the same amount of over $101,000 each, one on the 3rd, one on the 28th, and then the next day, on the October 29th, he wires money to a company of over $50,000. It always gets me when he starts stealing money in December, because as we know, December is the month he got the bulk of his salary. And this particular year, 2013, was his highest grossing year. He made millions. So with millions in legitimate salary coming to him that month, he still saw fit to steal from this widower with 6 kids. On the 9th, he takes over $33,000 to pay a car dealership. On the 18th, again, putting money back in Hannah's conservatorship, over $101,000. The very next day, on December 19th, he sends a wire and also collects some personal money orders in the amount over $50,000. The very next month, after taking all of this money, in addition to millions in salary, he apparently needs more money. So on January the 21st, 2014, he takes over $50,000 for personal use and over $33,000 he puts as a check into his personal account. Again, he takes a little break, and on May 14th, he decides he doesn't want to pay his own credit card bill. So he takes over $50,000 to pay his credit card, only to find himself the very next month in June taking over $101,000 for the very same credit card, all while Arthur struggles to make ends meet. By 2018, Arthur's financial situation was dire. Supporting 6 kids alone was more than he could manage. Debt and threats to take his home due to unpaid taxes faced him every day. In reality, Arthur was a millionaire. He'd been a millionaire since early 2013, but his attorney had neglected to tell him so. The children's money was also mishandled. After all, they couldn't tell him the kids' money was there without admitting that Donna's and his settlement money was there too. So instead of being placed into a conservatorship account and managed by a judge, they sat on it. probably hoping to steal it as well. It had been easy with the Plyler sisters since Alex was able to bestow conservatorship on Lafitte, but Arthur was a good dad. They couldn't take conservatorship away from him. With structured settlements for minors, depending on how they're set up, the children receive a lump sum at a certain age, multiple lump sums at specific ages, or monthly payments for the rest of their lives. Still, children's important needs can be paid for through the courts before the age of 18, but neither Alex nor Lafitte made Arthur aware of this. He didn't even know the money was there. They let him live in poverty with his 6 kids, afraid he'd lose his and his children's home at any moment. In time, Arthur and Donna's oldest daughter came of age and accepted an offer from a settlement factoring company to sell her structured settlement for a much smaller but immediate amount. A desperate Arthur did the same one by one with the other kids' settlements, not realizing what a bad offer it actually was. Instead of millions that would have been distributed amongst the kids in monthly payments from the age of 18, they sold it all for pennies on the dollar. As mentioned earlier, in cases of minors who receive settlements, their funds will not be available immediately. According to this chart, you can see the pay schedule for the Badger kids' settlements. While waiting for the structure settlement, factoring companies come along offering to buy your structured settlement and give you money immediately. The problem is, they rarely offer a fair price. But believing this to be their only option, his kids sold their settlements to one of these predatory factoring companies. Normally, you're given a fair amount of time to consider the offer, read the terms and agreements, receive advice, etc. But this company gave very little time for the purchase to be made. This particular company that bought the kids' settlements operates under multiple LLC names. Funding Direct LLC, Berkman First Funding LLC, Pittsburgh Funding LLC, and it goes on. Though the address given is the same Delaware address. Delaware allows for LLCs to be created with minimal disclosure, and you can register there and remain basically anonymous. Ryan Blank was affiliated with Pittsburgh Funding LLC in Maryland, where he and several associates were banned for 7 years and forced to pay restitution for their deceptive structured settlement purchases, making false claims, and even using fake names, including a fake judge named after a TV sitcom judge. Still allowed to operate in other states, he bought the 1.7 million settlements for $200,000. How can this happen, you might ask? Isn't anyone checking into these things? Surprisingly enough, the settlement purchases do take place in court, where a judge should look them over and make sure they are fair and in the children's best interests. Unfortunately, Allendale County is notorious for allowing these purchases without questioning or denying them. Judge Walter Sanders has never denied a single purchase, no matter how unfair or damaging to the person selling. Data shows he's sold $14 million in settlements for a total of only $1.7 million. A county map shows Allendale's rate of accepting offers from these factoring companies far outranks any other county in South Carolina. It's sad to note that it wasn't only Alex and his firm that let them down, but also Russell Lafitte and the bank. But more than that, both the judge who allowed Russell to be appointed as personal representative to Donna Badger and took his word that Arthur, a father of 6, would refuse his settlement money, and the judge who allowed the sale of all these kids' settlements for pennies on the dollar. Every single person of authority that Arthur Badger and his children encountered amongst the many whose job it was to help failed them. The entire system was broken. The entire system needs looked into and corrected. On a happier note, attorney Mark B. Tinsley, affectionately known as the Tiger, who is also taking care of the victims of the deadly boat crash, has taken on this case and will ensure justice is finally served for this family. If you've just found this channel, don't miss episodes 1 and 2. Episode 4 is coming soon. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode.